Right, hello. uh, Good start as always. Professional as always. Morning. CY, it's just above the average FPL. Just doing a quick deadline stream. I imagine a lot of people are watching Let's Talk FPL at the moment. So, if this doesn't go so well, then I'll be doing maybe 10 minutes and then I'll be jumping off. But, looking at the fixtures that we've got coming up, I've made a couple of transfers this week. I'm sitting at 628k. So I feel like I do need to be a bit aggressive, but at the same time, I've got obviously the double game weeks coming up. We've got double game weeks in 24, possibly and in 25 for a couple of teams, maybe some more, and then of course the big one in 26. So at the moment, I'm feeling, I contemplated a wild card, but a wild card now would probably be a bit too much. I was looking at maybe bringing in Nick Pope, to attack the fixtures. Um, if you look at the fixtures now, Burnley have got Brighton this week. Brighton have been fairly good recently. They've obviously had a couple of very, very good results. So they're not going to be you know, the pushovers. They came up against a very poor Tottenham side and were very resolute against Liverpool. So yeah, it's always a tough one, to be honest, with when it comes down to Burnley. They're obviously a very organised unit, and you hope with me and Tarkowski back now fully that they're going to be absolutely solid. And with the fixtures they've got coming up, they've obviously got Palace and Fulham in the double next week, West Brom, Tottenham and Leicester, maybe Leicester in 26. Even going beyond that, you got Arsenal and Everton beyond that. So the fixtures are very good. Pope is obviously a BPS magnet as well, and makes a lot of saves. So he was an option, but I've decided to give myself one more week, and purely on Arsenal's sort of bounce back in the last few weeks. Yes, they had a poor result against Wolves, but they still scored, and they've scored in their previous games as well. So I went against Martinez a couple of game weeks ago as part of the gentleman's agreement with Baker, but that didn't really work out too well. It is what it is, and I'm also thinking that Tottenham's attack is so poor without Harry Kane at the moment that really I don't think we're actually going to have too much threat against West Brom. We didn't when we went over to them in game week 8, and the frustrating thing about that game, I was burned, I guess, in that game as well when I triple captained Son. I mean, all the stats said that the left hand side of West Brom, or sorry, West Brom's right hand side was particularly poor, and you know it was an opportunity to triple captain Son. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. He got 3 points, and so that's not it wasn't ideal for me. So I really didn't do very well with that triple captain. But I mean, you live and learn on decisions like that. Yeah, Pope is definitely Pope's definitely an option, John. Uh, so I mean, this is my team as I say at the moment. What I've done this week is Zaha obviously got injured, so I brought in Suchek and Shea Adams. Really, with the addition of Minamino, I think could potentially see limited minutes, and so I really don't think that he's going to be a mainstay going forward. Even though they've got a couple of doubles in 25, 26, and maybe 27 as well, Southampton. But those include tough teams in all of them. Chelsea in the first one, Tottenham defensively in the second one, and we saw how Tottenham ripped Southampton apart earlier on in the season. Kane might be back for that game, and then Sheffield United fine in 27, but also Man City. So they're not the best doubles that you could want, to be honest. So Shea Adams to Antonio, it seems like a plum fixture to attack with West Ham, and in their form at the moment, their form's exceptional. Cresswell has been phenomenal. Kufal I've got in there mainly just because I've kept him, and so from a price point of view, I can't get Cresswell in. It doesn't make sense if I've already got the West Ham defender in there as well, so it made sense to go with him. really, really tough decision with City Liverpool this weekend. I mean, that's another reason why I thought I might wildcard, but I've gone basically. I think Diaz is going to be absolutely nailed. I'd be worried about Cancelo playing on the left hand side, to be honest, because of Salah. And then will he play against ahead of Walker? I mean, he probably should, but if they need someone more defensive in there rather than someone that's going to come in and fill the midfield, and help with that, that transition between defense and attack, you know, you could see Cancelo being benched this week potentially. So, I went with that. Robertson for me has just gone off the boil. Out of the two Liverpool defenders, he was the first person on my list to take out. So I was always going to go out with, I was thinking of transferring out Robertson as part of a hit, but with the players I've got in there, it didn't make any sense. In terms of my captain this week, so I think Bruno's going to be the safest bet. He's going to be massively owned. No Jordan Pickford. Hauled against them in the return fixture. Part of 17 points in the last game week. Yes, he could have had more, and a lot of owners probably think he should have had more, given obviously Southampton went down to 10 men early, but he's still the man for United at the end of the day. So, Bruno captain is going to be heavily owned. I mean, if you don't own him this week, then you're going to be punished, whatever happens. If you don't captain him and he hauls, obviously, we saw that last week. He hauled last week, and in fact, so many people hauled last week that, even having some returns last week, and if you didn't have Bruno as captain, you were probably on a red arrow. I myself was on a red arrow. I was above the average. I had 60 points last week. Average was 57. I took a red arrow. So not ideal, but I guess there's nobody here as well. So just things to think about if you're looking at fixtures in the weeks coming up. Obviously, you know I've looked at Barnes. Barnes's fixtures for the last 3 games have been fantastic. He'll be one that I'll be looking to move on. Souček, Fulham, Sheffield United, and Tottenham. It's a tough double, City and Arsenal. So this is why I'm really thinking to attack 23 and then make a decision in 24 about whether I'm going to take my wild card on, and then really look to attack the next 4 game weeks with that wild card. Then sort of dolly around in 28 and 29, get through those. There's a couple of good fixtures there. I mean, you're going to be able to carry your City players through 28, but obviously there's a high risk of a blank in 29. So I just don't think that 29 is really a fixture you really need to consider. We're essentially playing this season with 37 game weeks as it stands, and doubles all over the place. The only fixture that's confirmed at the moment is Fulham versus Leeds. So if you have got Leeds assets, Bamford, Dallas, I mentioned him, it's nearer the start of the season. But if you're sitting on someone like Harrison, for example, that they could be worth keeping. Their fixtures aren't too bad, even from game week 23. So Palace, Arsenal away, and then a double with Wolves and Southampton, which is quite nice. A tough game against Villa, West Ham, and Chelsea. I guess 26 to 28 is a bit tough, but then you back that up with Fulham and then Sheffield United. So, if you're going to have those players for 29, I mean, I think most people will try and probably field like 3 or 4 players and then just maximise what they can. Obviously, it's going to be the smallest game week we've ever seen. So, just being able to have, I don't think you're going to lose out too much if you really attack 24 to 29. So, morning, Declan. So, DCL, Rafinha, or Gundogan? Is that a choice of one, or do you want me to choose out of two? This week, as you say, Leeds have got Palace. Palace are very susceptible to conceding goals in the air. I don't know whether that leans towards Rafinha, maybe from the assist point of view, to be honest. Rafinha's been half decent the last few weeks, so it's not to say that he won't return. As I said, I mean, I've been speaking about Bamford just a minute ago. and the Leeds assets for the next few weeks. But for this week, if I'm going to pick one, I would probably that's such a tough one. I would probably go with Rafinha out of those three. Gundogan, yeah, Gundogan's he's been playing in that KDB role. I think the potential haul comes from Gundogan. I think Rafinha is the safest bet. I really wouldn't go with Everton against United. United's defence has been pretty good uh, the last few weeks, so I wouldn't personally look at DCL. It depends on who you've got. Depends who you've got around him and the rest of your team, I guess. I mean, if you're going to double up with Everton, I mean, I'm assuming that DCL is going to be the only guy that you have. So from Everton, in which case I would probably not play him this week, in my opinion. So because they haven't fired even since they came back, they haven't fired. So do I bench Gundo and keep Salah, or keep both and bench Son or Souček? John, I don't want to give you advice, mate, because you're way ahead of me in the mini leagues. Do you bench Gundo and keep Salah, or keep both and bench Son or Souček? So you're basically saying you need one out of those four needs to be benched. My heart says bench Son. My heart says bench Son. I mean, it's a tough one. I think the logical pick there would be to bench Gundogan. He is because he's the weakest out of the four in terms of. I mean, Son versus West Brom could be a haul, definitely. If we find some sort of attacking threat. That said, I mean, I've got Johnston in goal, so I'm really not putting much confidence in Tottenham. Gundogan, I say he will be on set pieces. And that's the thing about Gundogan. He's going to be on set pieces, right? Corners, free kicks in and around the box when they're looking to, kind of deliver the ball into the box. So that's going to play well for the likes of Diaz and Stones in against a Liverpool side that has no centre backs. So there's arguments for all. Salah is Salah at the end of the day. Yeah, it's a tough pick. You're right. It's a tough pick, John. It's a tough pick. If I had that decision, I would probably. I would probably bench Gundogan. I'd feel better about benching Gundogan because I like to have premium assets. Premium assets to do return on the pitch. So Salah and Son, I'd probably play if I had them. Both. Souček, it's a perfect fixture for him. As I said earlier, returned against Fulham in the return fixture. Picked up 9 points. West Ham on a good streak of form. Nobody knows who Fulham's centre backs are. So, I think Souček's a good pick for this week. I think benching Gundogan is the one, despite, as I say, despite Liverpool having no centre backs. Yeah, that's a really, really tough decision. I wouldn't want to have that headache myself. I'm quite happy with the bench that I've got. Martinez over Johnston on the bench. That's a heart decision more than a head one. I say I've been burned by Martinez before. Are we looking at beyond 23 at all? So, beyond 23. Well, let's have a look at the games and see what we can pick from the games today. So, Villa versus Arsenal. That's a good opportunity for the likes of Grealish to pick up points. It's the early game, which always puts people on edge. But for me, I feel like this is a game that Villa need to bounce back from their defeat against West Ham for. That said, there's Arsenal carry threats that Villa maybe aren't so set up to deal with. You don't expect Arsenal to be, flying down the wings and pinging in crosses left, right, and centre. That's where Villa are at their strongest at the back, in particular. They do have a lot of attacking threat from their defenders as well, Arsenal, and I think that plays better into Grealish's hands as well. Allows Villa to transition quickly, which Grealish can do on the ball, and then you're just relying on Watkins to, be able to finish his dinner essentially. So, an interesting one. I mean, as I said, Arsenal's attack is not so catered to the way that Villa have been defending recently. Saka definitely an option for this week, in my opinion, and certainly with more sort of intricate touches around the box and the way he plays, I think he could be the sort of between Grealish and Saka if I was to pick one from each team for that game. Moving on then, so we've got Burnley and Brighton. And what we got? 14 minutes to the deadline. Burnley and Brighton. So Brighton, big couple of results for them recently. Obviously, the win against Tottenham and the win against Liverpool, 2 clean sheets. Not scintillating football. That said, they've really been on a run of nice form at the moment. Again, they're coming up against the Burnley that we know at home. Nick Pope, Ben Mee, James Tarkowski. That solid line in front of them. I mean, they kept City to 1 last week, and really it came from a Nick Pope error, in my opinion. He should have caught that ball instead of basically dropping it on Jesus' head. If I was to pick two from here, Brighton's a really tough one. I don't really see any standout players here. However, in terms of goal involvement, you're more likely to get anything from Mopai than anything else. Burnley, again, I think this is all about the defences. So, really the pick for me for Burnley is Nick Pope this week. He could find himself having to deal with some shots from the likes of Trossard and Pascal Gross, etc. So, yeah, I think Nick Pope's the standout one for me here. Could be a 0-0. It feels like a 0-0, to be honest. Newcastle, Southampton. And Newcastle, and Newcastle, from the last fixture, and a very sort of strong performance from Callum Wilson more recently. So for me, Callum Wilson is going to be your standout pick from Newcastle, and then from Southampton, difficult. Depends who he starts. I mean, he's going to. Depends who he starts. Ings is obviously the main man there. No Kyle Walker-Peters yet, and somebody that hasn't returned in a while that always seems to be involved, a very good player to watch. And deadly on set pieces, James Ward-Prowse. For me though, I mean, you're really going to be looking at the attacking threats here. So Newcastle would be Callum Wilson for me, and then Danny Ings for Southampton. Fulham versus West Ham. Fulham turned a little corner. They got a bit better, but really they're still just Fulham. So I don't see anything else other than a routine kind of West Ham win here, 2-0, 3-0, something like that. Antonio could have an absolute field day against these centre backs, and between him and most likely Souček, acting almost as his second striker as he gets flanked by Bowen and Benrahma or Lanzini and Fornals. So West Ham are almost going to be operating as a 4 up top, and I think that's just going to be way too much for Fulham. I can't see a pick from Fulham here that would make sense for me. I really don't see it. So, if I was to, the two players that I would be looking at here, and I've got them both, are Souček and Antonio for sure. And I think Antonio is a viable captain as well this week. Really is a fixture that he can attack. And I think if you want to go against the grain, against the Bruno, then then Antonio would be a good captain to go for. And on to the evening game. So Everton, United in great form. Obviously, yes, Southampton were down to 10 men, but you still have to do the job and you still have to do it properly. arguments on the penalty, whatever. We know it wasn't really a penalty. We talked about it in the last podcast, so I won't go over that. But at the end of the day, United put them to the sword, and kind of weirdly, and I don't, we do this quite often. We refer back to Tottenham, but you know, Tottenham beating United 6-1 at Old Trafford. Fine, they were down to 10 men after 40 minutes, but taking United to the sword really put us on track for a good set of fixtures and a good set of results, which actually resulted in Tottenham being top of the table for a little bit. So, regardless of how the result comes about and how you get the win and whatever happens in that game, getting the result and keeping a clean sheet, it just does wonders for confidence. Does wonders for confidence, and also in terms of acting like a training game, you're able to actually work on those sort of scenario plays where you are sort of 5 against 4 at the back and things like that you would maybe working on in training, and you can just work on it during the game as well and see what works, what movement works. So yeah, for me, United coming out of that game winning 9-0 was a perfect result for them. I didn't like it myself, but for them, absolutely perfect. And since we had DCL, James, Digne all come back, they've been underwhelming. Everton, they've been really underwhelming. I mean, I said to Declan that I would not play DCL. I wouldn't. However, if you wanted to pick an Everton player, he's the only one that you could really think of. Any given chance, he's the one that's going to potentially return the points. And again, that's probably going to come from Digne. But then you're looking at specifically for an attacking return from Digne, because I think United are going to romp this. No Jordan Pickford, and you know United had Everton on the rails last time round, 3-1 in the reverse fixture. Halls for Rashford and for Bruno in particular. I mean, as I say, if you're not on Bruno captain this week, then you are playing against the odds, uh, in my opinion, and you would be ballsier than me, even me, to go against that. And it's funny because I've had 3 captains from my defenders in the past 4 weeks, and picked up like 62 points from that. So I've been pretty punty in the last few weeks. It's taken me from like 1.1 million up to 600k, so it's worked okay. In despite my red arrow, I was up at like 480 a couple of weeks ago, but uh, routine win for me. United, pick your poison. Bruno obviously the standout, but Rashford, Martial, both excellent picks. I'm not sure I'll be punting on Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw to return like they did last time. Um, but they're going to cause Everton a lot of problems, So Bruno, standout pick. Effective ownership is going to be massive. So punt against him at your own risk. So 7 minutes, let's fly through them. So Spurs West Brom, for me, Spurs absolutely no attacking threat whatsoever in the last game against Chelsea. Didn't look like scoring against Brighton. Look, absolutely lost without Harry Kane. Without Reguilon on the left hand side as well. That left hand side is particularly weak. Ben Davies has not been fantastic. I think it and even in the midfield, we've seen Tanguy Ndombele go missing, and be sort of disinterested in the game, and that could play well into someone like Pereira, who's on hot form. I can't. There's their new signing Dianga. He's come in and he started well. I don't even want to pick a player from here. Uh, Tottenham is going to be Son, really. It's been Son or Kane all season. So if something's going to happen, it's going to come from Son. It really depends on how Jose lines them up, because Vinicius was particularly poor in the week as well. Had a clear header as well. Huge chance. Missed that. Oh, excuse me. So I'm not picking any players from Spurs West Brom myself, at all. Wolves Leicester. Wolves not been in the best form of late. Leicester have been playing particularly well. I would load up. If you're sitting on someone like James Justin, fantastic. Even someone like Ricardo Pereira maybe wants another game to watch him, but Pereira's definitely coming back into the frame. Fixtures don't get any better for the next two, but they obviously double isn't too bad. Arsenal and Burnley, and then Brighton and Sheffield United out the back of that. So that's quite nice. I've got Harvey Barnes. I'm quite happy with that pick. I would prefer to have Maddison, but Barnes is okay. And then the big one, Liverpool City. So I was sitting with four at the back, and this is either going to go one or two ways because these are going to be the two strongest teams, right? So if there's a hint of De Bruyne being fit, he'll come back in. There was an interview where Pep had mentioned injuries and KDB's name did not come up. Maybe conspiracy theorists or whatever reading between the lines, thinking that he might be fit. So we'll wait and see on that one. But Jesus is in good form at the moment. Again, no centre backs for Liverpool really. So Jesus could be an interesting differential pick here. We'll see. I think Alisson's back this week, so expect them to be a bit shored up at the back in terms of keeper, and in terms of command in the box as well. But having four at the back for me was just. I knew this day was coming when I was playing with those players. I knew this day was coming, and I've had to bench two of them. In terms of Man City, again, Gundogan's going to be on a lot of things. He's going to be filling that KDB role, deliveries and stuff like that. Sterling, there's so many in this game. There's so many in this game that you could think of. Scott Dan differential captain, no, no chance. So Sheffield United, Chelsea. So despite Chelsea beating Tottenham in the week, they weren't particularly impressive considering how poor Tottenham were, and only really needed a penalty and forced Hugo into one save, really one proper save that he tipped round the post. Chelsea still betting into that Tuchel mentality at the moment. So Azpilicueta and Alonso look like they are starting to earn their place back, and that obviously spells a bit of risk for Chilwell more than James, because I think you'll find that James can push on into the midfield. I'll see. Yeah, we'll wait and see. But again, Werner, I don't know what it is, and we said it 10, 12 weeks ago. Maybe a bit of jest actually more than anything, but he does have the Soldado feel about him. Excellent in his local league. Has the ability to score goals for fun, and then comes over to the Premier League, scores a penalty, thinks everything's going to be okay, and then nothing. I think Soldado took like 8 months to score an open play goal. So, and I know Werner scored a couple in the cups, but not really too much. So this is a tough one for me. I think Chelsea will win the game. Probably by a couple of goals. Interesting the Hudson-Odoi still playing as well. 2 minutes till the deadline. Jesus. Who to pick though? Really, really tough to know where the goal is going to come from. Mason Mount is generally involved a lot, so in their build-up play in particular. So he might be the assister to the assister, but there we go. I couldn't pick anyone from Chelsea Sheffield United game, to be honest. Leeds Palace. Now, this could be fireworks, especially. I mean, I just worry about Palace's attacking potential without Zaha. He didn't return 2 weeks ago, played excellently, and although saying that, I mean, Eze has really kind of stepped up. Just a wonderful player, a wonderful, wonderful player. So gifted with the ball, and there is a chance, obviously, with how attacking Leeds are, that Palace can find gaps in behind as they break away. Leeds great form. Bamford coming back in and basically smashing it. It's really difficult, that one. Dallas obviously out of position as well. It's a really, really tough one. There could be a lot of goals in that game. I'd probably favour Leeds. So, in very quick rundown. So 11 o'clock has gone. I think the deadline has probably then just passed. Refresh. Let's refresh the right page. Refresh. Game is being updated. Eze and Scott down goals. So yeah, for me, team's locked in, obviously. So Johnston in goal, Diaz, Kufal, and Trent at the back. Bruno captain, and then Salah, Barnes, and Souček. And then up top, Watkins, Bamford, and Antonio. And that's me. 2 free transfers this week. I rolled my transfer last week, so that should be good. In terms of how Baker's set up, I wonder whether Baker's actually tweeted out his team yet. I'll just have a quick look and let's see if he's tweeted out his locked-in team. He hasn't. That's strange. I know that he's on the peloton at the moment, so he's having a little cycle. Um, so you know, he was a bit tired last night. A lot of work this week. He's been very very busy. Obviously did the FPL Lounge podcast in the week as well. So yeah, he clearly he's gonna send his team in a bit once he's stopped sweating. So yeah. I guess that's it, guys, for me. I mean, hopefully, if anyone's watching this back, I mean, you know, let me know what you think. And I probably won't do any of these again. I just before I said to Baker last night. I said I'll put a poll out, and then Boona retweeted it. We got like 60% of 40 odd people said they were going to watch it, which is like 27 people. I thought great, and then I haven't had more than 3, so I was going to bin it early, but I decided to stick it out anyway. And then as I logged on to sort of start the stream up, I had a quick look on YouTube. Is anybody else live? Oh yeah, Andy, let's talk FPL. How many people watching? 6,200 people. Oh, okay. So I'm pretty much going to be sitting here on my own talking to myself. But it helps me talk through some of the thoughts and some of the thoughts through the game. And Eze and Scott Dan are not scoring. Well, Scott Dan isn't scoring. So yeah, I'm off to go out. I'm off to go outside and enjoy the snow with the kids now. So don't have to think about it for a while. And then we've got the first game up, and we'll see what happens. So whatever you do this week and beyond, good luck, and we will come to you with a podcast at the end of this game week. Take it easy, guys.